You're listening to the Online Business Blueprint. I'm John Stange. It's great to have you with us this week. As always, our podcast is brought to us by PlatformLaunchers.com. We'd love to invite you over to Platform Launchers because here we build, grow, and monetize our online platforms. We take our passions, turn them into a platform, and use that as a paycheck. And it's great to have you with us this week, as always, because we're going to be talking about some things that have the potential to propel your online platform, your online business a little bit further. And this week, we've got kind of a fun topic here that I think is going to be particularly practical, related to really whatever season of online platform development you're at. We're talking about the importance of having a short-term mission. So just think about that statement for a quick second. A short-term mission. Do you have a short-term mission? Those of you who know me because you listen to this podcast with regularity, or those who are in our members club that are live on the call here with me as I record this, you can testify to the fact that by personality and practice, I tend to be a bit of a pioneer. I tend to be a bit of a builder. I know that's no mystery to those of you that have come to know me well, and certainly the case in a variety of areas of my life. But I enjoy starting things. I enjoy helping things grow. There's a reason I say that Platform Launchers is a place where we help you build, grow, and monetize your online platform. This is the type of stuff that I get really excited about doing. And so that's what we're aiming to do here, but that's also how I'm personally wired to operate. And I continue to operate that way in just my day-to-day life, but also in my online businesses. And in addition to being a builder, I would consider myself a visionary. And the way I express this to people, I tell people I dream more when I'm awake than I do when I'm asleep. I daydream constantly. I tend to see things by faith before I see them with my own eyes. That concept certainly applies to my spiritual life, but it also applies to my day-to-day business practices. I like to envision the ultimate outcomes before I see those outcomes operating in real time. I see them with my heart. I see them in my mind before I actually see them in my day-to-day life. So knowing this to be true of myself, I find it helpful to put some parameters on my dreaming. And if you're a visionary, if you're a builder, if you're a pioneer, if you're a dreamer like I am, I want to encourage you to do something a little bit practical that I think will help you take those dreams and turn those into day-to-day realities. For me, these self-imposed parameters that I'm putting on these dreams, they come with deadlines. And these deadlines force me, really in a self-imposed kind of way, to get things done in a prescribed amount of time. I like operating that way, but there's another phrase, or another phrase, do I want to say it that way? Or maybe another way I could say is, there's another way I enjoy phrasing this in my mind. When I think about these parameters, when I think about the things that I'm doing, I like to talk about these things to myself as short-term missions. And I want to encourage you to start developing some short-term missions of your own. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, because I think you're going to find this particularly helpful. So I'm going to use one particular platform that I've been developing as kind of the case study with this, because if you're in the process of developing your online platform, really wherever you are in this, I think you're going to find this somewhat useful. Nearly 2 years ago, I decided to start a brand new online platform. After having started several and running several, I decided to start a brand new one. And it's a platform that allows me to share the various forms of faith-based content that I'm creating in new and creative ways. People regularly ask me for help in this area of particularly just this idea of growing in faith, growing in spiritual depth. Specifically, one of the main questions that I tend to get from others, they often ask me to help them learn the content of the Bible. And I've noticed that that tends to be one of the most regular questions I get. So I was thinking about the faith-based content that I was already creating, but I was also thinking about new ways to deliver that. And I thought, you know what, let me look for a domain that has Bible study as part of its title. And I discovered that BibleStudyHeadquarters.com was available. And I thought that's the perfect kind of domain to encapsulate what I am trying to do with what I'm trying to build. So I bought BibleStudyHeadquarters.com. I decided to start building it into a hub of useful information and useful tools that will help others grow in their faith in the Lord, but also their knowledge of the scriptures. And if you've been in the process of building a platform, I completely understand how you may feel, particularly in the early phases of doing that, because I think building an online platform, it can feel a little overwhelming at first. And so to prevent myself from feeling that way as I was starting BibleStudyHeadquarters.com, I started breaking the task of building that platform. I started breaking it down into smaller segments. And these smaller segments were my short-term missions. So this is how I broke it down, and I want to just share this with you because I think it might be helpful for you, particularly if you're starting something new or if you're developing something but feeling a bit overwhelmed with the individual tasks. This is how I broke down the building of that platform. My first mission I already mentioned. That was to purchase the domain and to set up hosting. And so I got the domain. I decided to I basically host everything now with Kajabi. I love using Kajabi. And if you're listening to the podcast, I do have a link in the podcast. It's my affiliate link for Kajabi, but it'll give you some free time using their platform and testing it out if you want to give it a try. But my first task, my first short-term mission was to purchase the domain and to set up the hosting. So I did that. And then after I got that set up, I thought, all right, my next mission is to develop a logo. So I used software and I developed a logo and I was happy with what I came up with. And then once those items were taken care of, my next missions, plural, involved building the website one page at a time. So it was technically one mission, but it had multiple parts. So I'll call this several missions that I'm combining together. And I didn't burden myself with the thought of trying to get it created all at once. I just took it a piece or a page at a time, and I set up the site gradually, little bit at a time, little piece at a time, little page at a time. And once the site was built, my next short-term mission was to refine it and then improve its user friendliness. And again, keep in mind, I was doing these things one task at a time. Basically, I would blank out every other thought of doing all the other things that I knew needed to be done with this brand new platform, and I would just focus on one thing, the short-term mission. So once I built the site, my short-term mission that I was on at that point was to refine the site, to improve its user friendliness. And I went through and I looked at things and I had other people look at things and I just kind of refined it a little bit. Once I was satisfied that it was a user-friendly setup, I moved on to the next mission. And the next mission was this. I wanted to add content to the site. And so I started doing that 1 week at a time, one piece at a time, by creating blog posts. If you've been following what I do online, that's one of my favorite ways to add content because it's like you own a new piece of online real estate every time you create one of those blog posts. And they are so searchable, and search engines seem to love those blog posts. And so I'd encourage you to have that as one of your overall strategies when you're building your online platform. But that was the mission I was on at that point. One piece at a time, one page at a time, one blog post at a time. Then from there, I took on the mission of creating an online course that visitors could download for free. So I got that squared away. And then once that mission was complete, my next mission was to connect with other sites that create similar forms of content. And so I started giving them permission to use my content on their sites, with the understanding that they would create a backlink to BibleStudyHeadquarters.com every time they used my content. And what that did is it helped build the site's visibility. It helped build the site's authority. It helped develop the search engine optimization on sites like Google and other search engines. But now I'm at a point, having done all of those things over the past year and a half, almost 2 years. It's not quite 2 years, but over the past year and a half plus, now I'm at the spot where I have a brand new short-term mission. And I'm actually kind of excited about it because having worked through these things one piece at a time without burdening myself with thinking about anything else I had to do with that site, I ended up getting it to a certain spot where it became particularly usable to people, and now it's getting used with regularity. And this is what I've been doing right now. This is the short-term mission I'm on that I'm all pumped up about. I've been monitoring the analytics for the website. And I noticed something very exciting recently, particularly during the last few months, we'll say, really during the past 2 months in particular. But visits to the site appear to be growing exponentially. I've been really excited about it. Every day I'm showing my wife new numbers. I'm like, hey, check it out. New milestone, new plateau. But the visits to the site have now gotten to a spot where they've literally 10x'd where they were 1 year ago. It's exact. They've 10x'd exactly where they were a year ago, which makes me wonder, and I hope that this is the case. Maybe I'm even undercutting things, but it makes me wonder if in a year from now they might 10x where they're at presently. That'd be kind of fun if every year it just kept 10xing. That'd certainly be some great exponential growth. I could only hope, right? But I'm going to keep plodding away. But I did notice that the analytics were saying, all right, it's 10xing where it was exactly 1 year ago. So as the site is maturing and as usage now seems to be dramatically increasing, I want to explore, this is my present short-term mission, I want to explore various ways that the site can be ethically monetized without compromising its content or mission. So most people probably understand that when you take on a labor of love, like I did with that platform, that there are all kinds of expenses that you incur to do so. Right now, as I record this podcast, some of you are watching this on YouTube, others are listening to the audio. Live on this call with me are a group of online entrepreneurs, people who are part of our online members club that can tell you that when you develop an online platform, there are all kinds of expenses. Some of them are small, some of them are a bit larger. That you take on when basically invest yourself in that kind of labor of love. And so knowing that that's the case with what I'm doing with BibleStudyHeadquarters.com, I expected that. It doesn't bother me. When I purchased the domain, and I began paying for the software and the hosting that are necessary to keep everything running, I knew that I was going to be incurring an expense. In fact, it cost me thousands of dollars a year to run all of that. I personally think it's money well spent, but it's something that, it genuinely is an expense to run something like that. But at the same time, I've been thinking, I would be more than happy to recoup some of those expenses over time. And so I've made it my short-term mission to now be at a spot, now that I've developed the site, developed the content, and developed the traffic that seems to be coming to it. I've made it my short-term mission to explore my options when it comes to ethical monetization. And I have several ideas that I'm going to experiment with over time until I find the recipe that best fits the overall mission and the purpose of that specific platform. But I'm mentioning that to you, obviously, because I'm excited about it. And I think that there's a great opportunity there, especially with the exponential growth that it's been experiencing as of late. But I say this all to you, and I've walked you through this process of one short-term mission at a time to basically get to the spot where I have the privilege to ask you this. What about you? What are you in the process of building right now? As you're in this process, have you identified a short-term mission that you could commit yourself to that might help you reach some of your long-term goals with your overall platform? Now, I will say this, and this is not going to surprise you. In general, entrepreneurs are dreamers. I'm a dreamer. I'm assuming if you're bothering to listen to this podcast, you're a dreamer. I know that those that are live on the call here with me, I'm surrounded by dreamers. And this is what happens typically with dreamers. Usually we can see steps 1 and step 27, right? You can see step 1 and step 27, but we struggle to focus on steps 2 through 26 that come in between, right? We see the start, we see the finish, but we don't always spend enough time on the many different steps that come in between. So let me encourage you to treat those in-between steps like your short-term missions. Steps 2 through 26. You can already see the start. You can already see the finish. Let me encourage you to treat those in-between steps like your short-term missions, because it's more fun to accomplish them when that's the attitude that you take toward them, that they are part of your short-term mission. The in-between steps aren't burdens to be endured. They are opportunities to pursue. And it might even be nice if you consider rewarding yourself with something nice as you complete each short-term mission throughout the course of your overall quest. I know what my current mission needs to be. I know what it is at present. I know what it needs to be. Again, it's time for me to develop tools that will help fund my platform over the long term. And I've got some things that are in the process of being developed, and I'm pretty excited to unveil them and unroll them over time. But my question isn't so much about me and my short term mission, it's about you and your mission. What is your mission? What's the mission that you're on right now? What is the short term mission? Are you willing to carve out small, dedicated segments of time to pursue it? I'm encouraging you to think about what you're developing like this because I know that the tendency for many of us is to become overwhelmed with what we're trying to build. At times, we could be exhausted because we're trying to do too much at once. But you don't need to have the long-term mission constantly in mind. You could see that as kind of the distant goal, and that's fine to know where you're trying to take things to. But again, entrepreneurs, we tend to see step 1 and step 27. The short-term missions are number 2, number 3, number 4, all those steps that come in between. And so I want to encourage you to just stay focused on whatever step you're on. If you've already got things started, all right, what's the next step that you need to focus on? Is it the user-friendly step? Is it the content creation step? Are you at a monetization step? Is it connecting with other platforms that'll share backlinks as they utilize your content? Any of those steps that I've listed as steps that I've had to work my way through over the course of time as I've been trying to build up this new platform. These are the same or similar steps that you're going to be on as you build your thing. Don't be overwhelmed by trying to think about all the steps at one time. Just focus on the step that you're on. That is your short-term mission. Give yourself permission to stay focused on it. Forget about all the other stuff. Get the mission done, celebrate its completion, and then move on to the next step. Super glad to be able to spend this time with you each week. Like I said at the start here, if you haven't checked out our website, stop by at platformlaunchers.com. We have some tools that'll help you with your short-term mission. In fact, right there on the homepage of the website, you can find our 21-day platform development planning guide. It'll help you plan this all out over the course of the next 3 weeks. You can find it right at platformlaunchers.com. It's free to download right there on the homepage. You could also take a free 2-week test drive of our members club, and you'll get full access to our video vault, which has hundreds and hundreds of hours of video content that will help you as you seek to build, grow, and monetize your online platform. Content from guest experts, our weekly teaching, our Q&As, a whole bunch of things there. It's all available at platformlaunchers.com. Much of the stuff that we have there, you could literally just test it out for free and see if it's right for you. So I hope you'll check it out, platformlaunchers.com. That's the place to stop. But that's it for us this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to be able to spend this time together. I hope you have an awesome week building, growing, and monetizing your platform. And we look forward to catching up with you again right here next time. Take care.